Look at this piece of junk. Can you believe he still drives this?
That truck looks worse every year. He is going to get stuck in a snowdrift one of these days.
John entered the dining room, the aroma of turkey and pine filling the air. He took his seat at the head of the table, ignoring the smirks.
Honestly, John, I would not pay 10 grand for that rusty heap. It is embarrassing.
Is that a fact?
I will bet you cannot even get 10,000 for it. In fact, I will make it interesting. If you sell it for more, I will give you 10%.
You sure you can afford that?
More than you can afford to lose, old man.
Dad, please do not do this.
You are on.
Mark angled his phone, recording John's stoic face as the family laughed around the table. The Instagram post went live seconds later.
Caption: Father-in-law's classic. 10,000? LOL. Let's see the offers roll in.
John, you're going to need a tow truck by New Year's.
He shouldn't have to endure this.
After the plates were cleared, Mark positioned himself at the end of the hall, blocking John's path.
You realize everyone is laughing behind your back, right? That truck is a liability.
If you say so.
I do say so. And when you can't sell it, I'll be the first to offer you a ride to the dealership.
I look forward to that.
John stepped past him, the worn leather of his belt creaking, and headed out into the cold night where the old Chevy waited, its engine turning over on the second try. The garage door rattled shut behind him, cutting off the cold December wind. Under the fluorescent lights, the old Chevy sat like a patient awaiting surgery. John lifted the hood. The engine gleamed, no rust, no grime. Every hose and clamp had been replaced with factory-correct parts, the restoration hidden beneath the worn exterior.
They see a wreck. I see what it was, and what it will be again.
He walked to an old steel cabinet, spun the dial of a fireproof safe, and retrieved a leather-bound folder that smelled of thyme and diesel. Inside were photographs, yellowed by decades, an Apollo-era astronaut in civilian clothes, one boot on the Chevy's bumper, a launch tower in the distance.
Captain James Riley, you trusted me with your hauler. I promised I would finish what you started.
Clamped beneath the photograph was a restoration journal, pages filled with meticulous notes, part numbers, and a signed letter from the Riley family, granting John full ownership and a single request, that the world remember.
That dinner was a stage, and they wrote my part as the fool. But the real show hasn't started.
He closed the folder, the astronaut's gaze still burning through the leather. The safe clicked shut.
Soon.
By morning, Mark's Instagram post had gathered dozens of likes and a comment thread that read like a roast.
Check this out. That thing should be in a junkyard, not a driveway. Classic.
The family group chat lit up. Carol, John's truck is officially internet famous and not in a good way, LOL. Dan replied, maybe he'll finally listen and buy something that won't embarrass Linda. John's phone buzzed on the workbench, but he ignored the pings and picked up the landline instead.
Yes, this is John Morrison. I'm calling to confirm my entry for the upcoming auction.
A few minutes later, he hung up with a half smile. The representative had confirmed his spot. The formal letter arrived 3 days later. We are pleased to accept your 1969 Chevrolet K10 into our collector car lineup.
They see scrap, but the world is about to see history.
The countdown had begun. Mark had no idea that the punchline was about to turn into a payday. In the hollow weeks after Christmas, John's garage became a sanctuary of progress. He and an old mechanic friend replaced the worn suspension, the truck rising inch by inch back to its factory stance.
Almost ready. The world won't see a wreck when I'm done.
Across town, Mark stepped out of his BMW and leveled his phone at John's garage, a grin already forming.
Week 3, and the Classic is still parked. 0 offers. Anybody want to make an offer?
He posted the clip with hashtags that bit deeper. Junker truck, father-in-law fail, time for rain ride. That evening, Linda was waiting in the kitchen. Her arms were crossed, her jaw tight.
Why do you keep humiliating him? He's my father, Mark. This isn't funny anymore.
It's content, Linda. Relax. He knows it's all in good fun.
She held his gaze a moment too long, then turned away, the space between them now colder than the winter outside. The next afternoon, Linda stood in her father's garage, the sharp scent of polish in the air. John motioned to a stool.
Sit down, honey. I need to show you something.
He opened the safe and placed the leather folder on the workbench, its edges worn from decades.
What is this, Dad?
She flipped through the photographs, her breath catching when she saw the astronaut's face and the launch tower behind him.
That truck outside has a history your husband can't imagine. It's going to Barrett-Jackson next month.
Barrett-Jackson? Dad, that's huge. But what about the bet?
The bet is the least of it. I need you to trust me and say nothing to Mark. Not yet.
She nodded slowly, her eyes still on the letter from the Riley family, her silence a promise she now had to keep. That evening, she returned home, her silence a wall that Mark couldn't seem to scale. He watched her across the living room, confused by the distance. The silence finally cracked when Mark set down his drink with more force than needed.
Is something going on with your dad? You've been weird all week.
Just worried about him. You know how stubborn he can be.
Mark didn't buy it. Later that night, he opened his laptop and typed the truck's make and year into the search bar.
Let's see if the old man has some secret. Nothing. Just a bunch of dead links in some museum archive. The guy's living in the past.
At dawn, John's garage door opened onto a cold morning. A flatbed truck waited, its winch already spooling.
Easy now. She's got a date with history.
Probably just family drama. Linda's always been sensitive.
The flatbed pulled away into the pre-dawn light, the truck's silhouette shrinking in the mirror. Mark slept through it all, completely unaware. The desert sun broke over the mountains as John stepped out of his rental car, the dry air a sharp change from back home. He walked into the auction venue, the hum of activity and scent of fresh polish filling the air. His truck was already in position.
1969 Chevrolet K10. Restoration by John Morrison. Prepared for submission.
A collector nearby tilted his head, then stepped closer.
This one belonged to an Apollo astronaut. It's been undercover for decades.
The collector's eyes widened, and he immediately pulled out his phone to snap a picture.
Tomorrow the whole world will know what this truck really is.
He wandered the showroom, past six-figure Corvettes and rare Ferraris, but his old Chevy held its own under the lights.
Not junk now, is it?
The auction was set to begin in just a few hours. John found his seat and waited. Back home, Mark had the Barrett-Jackson stream running on his tablet, half watching exotic cars cross the block while he scrolled his phone.
Wait, that's a '69 Chevy K10. It looks just like... No way.
He zoomed in, his thumb trembling over the screen. The rust patches near the wheel well were unmistakable.
That's his truck. The old man actually put it in a Barrett-Jackson auction.
He grabbed his phone and dialed Linda, his chest tight.
Mark? What's wrong?
Your dad's truck is at Barrett-Jackson right now. Did you know about this?
What? Barrett-Jackson? He never said anything to me. Are you sure it's his?
Mark stared at the screen as the camera panned over the truck's dented rear fender, the same one he'd mocked a dozen times.
How did he pull this off? That heap doesn't belong there.
John stood before the hotel mirror, adjusting his worn belt. The desert light cut sharp across his tan today.
Not for the money, for the truth.
The auctioneer's voice boomed through the venue. The first cars crossed the block. The crowd buzzed. John's truck was scheduled for the afternoon session. The energy was already electric. Back home, Mark sat rigid on the couch, the stream on the big screen. Linda beside him, silent.
I can't believe he'd do this without telling anyone. It's still a rusty truck. No one will bid.
Maybe he wanted to prove something to himself. It's not about the money.
But the bet? If it sells for more than 10 grand, I'm liable.
Linda glanced at her phone. A text from John. It's almost time. She quickly muted it. The auctioneer called for a brief intermission. John's truck was next. The spotlight hit the old Chevy as it rolled onto the stage, its worn paint catching the light like a story waiting to be told.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lot 427, a 1969 Chevrolet K10 with a history unlike any other. This was the personal hauler of Apollo astronaut Captain James Riley, fully documented and restored by its devoted caretaker.
The crowd murmured in awe. Mark's face on the screen went pale, his jaw hanging slack.
That's impossible. An astronaut's truck? He never said a word.
We'll start the bidding at $100,000. Do I hear 100,000?
The family group chat exploded. Mike, is that Uncle John's truck? What is it doing at Barrett-Jackson? Carol? Wait, it says astronaut history? John never told us that. Dan, an Apollo astronaut owned that heap?
Linda, did you know about this? The astronaut thing? The restoration?
I had no idea. But I'm not surprised he kept it quiet. You would have mocked that too.
The bidding erupted. 150, 200, 300 paddles lifted across the room, each jump pulling the price higher.
300,000, now 4, now 500. Who'll make it 6?
John sat in the crowd, arms folded, a faint smile breaking through the weathered lines of his face. At home, Mark wiped sweat from his forehead, the air conditioner failing to cool the panic rising in his chest.
700,000? Do I hear 8? 800,000 from the rear.
Mark's phone buzzed. His Instagram post from Christmas had a new comment. Isn't this the truck you mocked? He ignored it, but the notifications kept stacking, each one tightening the knot in his stomach. The museum representative raised her paddle for the first time, her voice cutting through the noise. $1 million.
1 million. That's insane. The bet. I can't afford 10% of that.
The room went quiet. Then the bidding surged again, past 1.2 million with no end in sight. The numbers climbed like a fever. 1.5, 1.8. The auctioneer's gavel hovered, then pointed to a bidder in the shadows.
1.8 million. Do I hear 1.9? 2 million on the phone from the museum.
Mark's phone was now a blazing disaster. His Instagram post had been reshared hundreds of times with the auction's link.
They're all watching. Everyone I brag to is watching.
John sat motionless, the same slight smirk on his lips. Around him, the crowd held its breath as the bid stalled at 1.8.
$2 million. The bid is at 2 million. Do I hear 2.1? The museum rep raises her paddle. 2.1. That's it. That's the number. 2.1 million going once. Going twice.
Mark's knees buckled. Linda stared at the screen, her hand over her mouth. The gavel hovered high above the block, suspended in the white-hot silence before the final word. The gavel crashed down. Sold for 2.1 million, the room erupted. John closed his eyes, then let his smile stretch wide. A single tear traced the deep lines of his face. At home, Mark's legs gave out. He hit the floor on his knees, the phone clattering beside him. The Barrett-Jackson account tagged Mark's Christmas post. This junk just sold for $2.1 million. Thanks for the free promotion. Mark's phone exploded with notifications, comments, shares, derision flooding every screen. Linda stepped outside and dialed her father. The phone rang twice. John looked at the screen, saw her name, then slid the phone into his pocket. He walked into the Scottsdale sunlight.
I owe him 10%, $210,000.
He earned this. Every cent. Maybe now Mark will understand.
John paused at the venue exit, glanced back at the auction stage, then stepped outside. The desert stretched wide before him. By the time the sun rose over Scottsdale, John was already sitting across from a reporter, the auction sale making national headlines.
She deserved to be remembered, not left to rot in a garage. I was just the caretaker. The bet? I never cared about the money. I cared about the truth. And now the world knows.
Meanwhile, Mark walked into his office and felt every stare like a needle piercing his skin. Colleagues gathered near the water cooler, some openly showing his Instagram post on their phones, their smirks unmistakable.
I can't even look at my inbox without another jab. This is a nightmare.
Desperate to contain the damage, he dialed John's number, his hand trembling so hard he nearly dropped the phone. The line connected after 3 painful rings.
Mark.
John, please, we can work something out. I didn't mean it. The bet was a joke.
It was a binding verbal contract, witnessed by 6 relatives. We'll settle it when I return, face to face.
John's keys rattled in the lock of his front door. The house was cold, the garage even colder.
Empty now, but she's not gone. She's exactly where she was meant to be.
He sat at the kitchen table and pulled up his bank account. The wire transfer had posted $1,890,000 after fees. He took out a pen and stationery, writing to the Riley family. Your father's legacy is now secure.
I kept my promise, James. She's immortal now.
Across town, Mark was not finding peace. He'd spent the morning with a lawyer. The verdict was grim. A verbal bet with 6 witnesses holds up. He was on the hook for 10%.
210,000? I can't even sell my watch collection that fast.
John received a text from Linda. Dad, Mark is losing his mind. Are you okay? He replied, I'm fine. We'll talk soon. He sealed the envelope, a small smile on his face as he addressed it to the museum. Mark paced the kitchen, his phone pressed to his ear, the voice on the other end sharp enough to cut glass.
My parents just called. They saw the news. They're furious I made a bet like that.
You made your bed, Mark. I'm not cleaning it up for you.
Can you talk to your dad? Get him to lower it? Maybe he'll listen to you.
No, he deserves every penny. You humiliated him publicly, and now the world knows he was right.
Mark's phone buzzed again, a text from his father. Call us. This is serious.
Even my own parents are turning against me. I have nobody.
He sat at the desk and pulled out the checkbook, staring at the blank line for the amount.
210,000. I'll have to liquidate half my portfolio.
Linda turned away, the silence heavier than any argument. Mark was utterly alone. John set a date and time. The relatives who witnessed the Christmas bet gathered in his living room.
We're here to settle the bet. Mark, the terms were 10% of the sale price.
Mark's hand trembled as he filled in the check. The pen scratched like a verdict. He tore it from the book and held it out without looking up. John took the paper, glanced at the amount, and folded it into his shirt pocket.
This isn't about money. It's about respect. I hope you learn that.
Carol bit her lip. Dan adjusted his glasses. No one spoke. Mark dropped into the chair, his face a mask of defeat. The silence was his punishment. Linda stayed by the doorway, arms folded, but a single tear traced her cheek. John nodded once, then walked to the kitchen. The bet was closed. After the last car pulled away, Linda found her father alone in the kitchen, the silence wrapping around him like an old coat.
Dad, you were right about everything. I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you sooner.
You did the best you could in a hard spot. I never doubted your heart, honey.
He humiliated you in front of everyone, and I froze.
Water under the bridge. Today wasn't about revenge. It was about teaching him a lesson he won't forget.
Linda stepped into her father's arms, and for the first time in months, the tension melted from her shoulders. The next morning, John sat at the kitchen table with Mark's check and a donor form for the Veterans Support Foundation.
James, this is for you, your legacy, now helping those who served.
He mailed the full $210,000 donation in Captain James Riley's name, then hung the acknowledgement certificate in the hallway. He stepped back, the astronaut's name catching the morning sun, and allowed himself the smallest of smiles. The museum hall opened its doors, and the old Chevy stood behind glass, a plaque beside it reading, Captain James Riley's 1969 K-10, restored by John Morrison. John approached the exhibit, Linda at his side. Museum visitors paused to admire the truck, its rust patches now a badge of honor.
I never thought she'd end up in a place like this. It's what James would have wanted.
A small podium had been set up for the ceremony. The museum representative shook John's hand firmly.
This truck isn't just a vehicle, it's a piece of American history. Captain Riley served his country, and this was his loyal companion. I'm honored to have been its keeper.
Linda watched from the front row, her eyes glistening with pride. She felt a swell of emotion she hadn't known in years.
Dad deserves this moment, every single bit of it.
The museum representative presented John with a certificate of appreciation, then unveiled the permanent exhibit plaque. As the crowd applauded, Mark was nowhere to be seen, still grappling with the fallout of his own making. John placed his hand on the glass, the cool surface between him and the truck. His smile was finally one of peace. Weeks slipped by. The autumn leaves had fallen, and a cold snap had settled over the town when Mark's car rolled to a stop outside John's house. He walked up the porch steps slowly, hands deep in his coat pockets. John sat in the old rocker, saying nothing.
I know I can't undo it. I was arrogant and cruel. I'm sorry, not because I lost money, but because I hurt your family.
You did. But you're here. That counts for something.
I don't expect things to be okay. I just wanted you to hear it from me.
Time will tell. I'm not shutting the door, but I'm not opening it wide either.
John gestured to the empty rocker beside him. Mark sat, and for a long while, neither man spoke. The sunset bled orange into the horizon. The only sounds were the creak of old wood and the distant call of a bird. After a time, John gave a single nod more to himself than to Mark and reached for the iced tea at his side. The silence that followed was not comfortable, but it was honest, a first step on a road that might one day lead somewhere. At the museum, two children pressed their hands against the glass, staring up at the old Chevy with wide eyes and hushed voices. They read the plaque aloud, the astronaut's name sounding like something from another time. Miles away, John eased a modest new pickup onto the highway, the window down and the air crisp.
She's where she belongs now, and so am I.
The truck handled smoothly, nothing flashy, just reliable, like him. He pulled onto an overlook, the sun setting over the valley in ribbons of orange and gold. And there it was, the same slight smirk that had appeared at Christmas dinner. Only now, it carried the weight of a man who had been proved right in front of the world. John never needed the money. He just needed the world to see what he saw. And now they do.